We are racing for the transition of the fan hockey show to the Real Kyper and Bourne show. This is our Leaf Hour edition coming to you for the next 2 hours. Sam, are you okay over there?
What's going on?
What is going on?
Borny sat in my seat for 1 minute, and there's cords everywhere, and I can't get organized.
How did it feel over there? Because you just did a segment with Mike Fuda
Yeah.
and Matt.
And Marchese.
Yeah. It's good. It's you're kind of on an island. You feel a little isolated, but otherwise okay. Sam, you feel okay over there or lonely?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. I'd have never known anything else.
Did you save anything for us, or did you give them all the good stuff?
Buddy, I got it all. It's all holstered up and ready to pull out whenever something happens.
Well, wherever you're watching and listening live on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet 360, Sportsnet Plus, we're glad you're aboard. Leaf Hour edition, and then in the National Hour as well, coming up, Dan Murphy, Jason Gregor. We've had, of course, plenty of Oiler talk out there. Dan, of course, will fill us in with the Vancouver Canucks. And in about half an hour, we'll welcome in the president, or I'm sorry, not the president. They don't have one anymore.
Right.
The general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Brad Treliving. And one last bit of house cleaning here this hour of Real Kyper and Bourne, brought to you by Bet365. All right, go, JB.
What do you got?
Well,
What do you got? Pick it up from the Fuda conversation.
Well, we did the conversation yesterday about Mitchell signing in Vegas.
Yeah, and he made the trip out there. They had a press conference for him. Did you get to watch some of it? I saw a clip of him at the airport. I guess that's what they do once anybody comes off the plane, and they give him balloons, and there's cheerleaders.
You got the ladies there, yeah. I can't say I sat there and watched the press conference. I saw a couple of clips come across my Twitter feed, and relatively unremarkable. I'd love to be upset about anything. I'm not overly. Sam, I think, was a little more bothered.
No. Wow.
It's okay. First of all, you know what it does to social media, right? The people like the split, whatever it is. There's the lovers of Mitch Marner, and then there's the haters, and everybody gets to rip on him if they want.
Listen, I've been ripping on him since junior. So I wouldn't say I just did it on the way out. So
Mitch Marner?
Oh yeah.
You didn't rip him when he was a Leaf.
Oh, never?
No.
Are you being
just
serious?
kept quiet.
Oh yeah, for sure. But watching the press conference, and I watched the whole thing today. I watched Kelly McCrimmon and Mitch Marner today, which was bit of a chore, if I'm being fully honest. I get the feeling that he couldn't get out of here fast enough. That he wanted to get the hell out of here as quickly as he possibly.
I don't know. Yeah, and
that's
now you're surprised at that. Or?
Yeah, I am. I am surprised.
I think it sounds like people are not surprised, but affected by the idea that he had it in his head for a while, right?
Yeah.
Four Nations, talking to guys there, talking about places in Vegas during the season. I think that's what's irks some folks.
I mean, from a fan's perspective, this past year was, and if I do say so myself, may be the best chance the Toronto Maple Leafs ever have to make a long run in this era. Mm-hmm. And listen, they got, we can talk about their glowing day yesterday that they had in free agency, and the Matthias Michelli experiment. Maybe you can talk about that, but to have the leading scorer of the Toronto Maple Leafs talking about it at a press conference now, being like, I was talking to Stoney and talking to Hiller, and they said Vegas was great, and it's hard to not be like, he was dreaming of Vegas since the puck dropped after he got back.
Reality.
No,
it's just, Sam.
Okay,
free agency in professional sports has been around now for 50 years.
100%. I get that.
Everybody moves. Everybody. Why is this any different? Why can't he be like everybody else and just pack up, play the last year of his deal, and move? Why? Why?
The problem, I think, is that they don't feel like he was fully committed to the team he was on.
He had a career year at 102 points.
Yeah.
Sure.
Career year.
Imagine how good he'd been if he was bought in.
130?
Maybe.
140?
Sure.
I'm not saying that he wasn't bought in. That's not the conversation I'm having here. But, it's human nature. in those playoff games, like he was good in game 6 when he set up Matthews for that goal. But as soon as it starts to go bad, game 5, game 7, he's like, I'm starting to think about other things. It's like it's close to the end. It's just human nature. And it just hurts my soul that the guy from the area, the guy that's played in the OHL, didn't want to stay with this team, and he'd rather go play for the glitz and glam in Vegas. Why do you want that more than this?
That's it in a nutshell.
Why do you want that more than this?
No different than anyone else. You ask an Islander fan right now for Tavares, it's like it happened yesterday. They are still pissed.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
And that was 7 years ago.
And I think both parties are entitled to that frustration.
It's just natural, but get it off your chest. Go to social media.
Oh, I did.
Everybody can rip on him, and then eventually you have to move on because there's going to be a next one here.
Yeah, you just said they didn't move on Long Island. It's not going to be like that people move on.
I guess this just kind of confirms what a lot of people were feeling.
Yes,
which
he never
wanted to be here. And
people did hold out hope that if they somehow had some magic here, they find themselves in a conference final or a Stanley Cup final, he would have changed his mind and everybody could have lived happily ever after. And it didn't happen.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, to put one defense for Mitch Marner here that I think holds some weight is that when you go give your first press conference with your new team,
of course,
it's about
best
your
behavior.
new team.
Yeah, I get it.
And it's not about that team. And you want to offer something to that fan base. The way that like Pizzetta put out some pictures of himself in Leafs jerseys or Tavares pajamas. Oh my God. No, but I mean that kind of stuff that he grew up like. My point is, people want to say, "Hey, I'm connected to this team," and they want to start connecting new fans. So for Mitch to start being like, "I've heard great things. People say the area is awesome." You want the new fans to be like, "Okay, this kid is, he likes what we are."
Yeah, just to have him hanging out with all the players and the wives of the Four Nations, dreaming about playing in Vegas during the most important season of Toronto Maple Leafs hockey in my life, it does rub me the wrong way.
Okay,
sorry.
That's fair.
It's like, we talked about it with Stoner, and we talked about it with Hiller. It's like they're on nickname basis.
You're not naive to think that it doesn't happen. You just don't want to hear it publicly.
I think that's probably bang on, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I do.
I get that. You're a super fan.
I am. And there's a lot of super fans of this team.
Yeah.
In fact, maybe the most super fans of this team.
Perhaps.
Just played the clip 2, and I have a question off the back of this. Mitch Marner, clip 2 on his time in Toronto.
Last year in Toronto or 2 years ago, really kind of, stuff, we didn't win, obviously. We didn't do what we wanted to do. Stuff started kind of going, a little north, a little south. We didn't know what was going to happen. A lot of trade rumors all last summer. Didn't know what was going to happen in that regard either. And, as soon as the year started up, we're ready to commit and play hockey and, see what would happen. But, at the same time, we're willing to take it to the distance and, kind of told Toronto that that was our plan. And, I was so grateful to play there for 9 years. I said it at my end of the year interview there that I took a risky pick on a small kid from Toronto that, was forever grateful to be able to wear a Maple Leaf jersey and forever to be able to play in front of, some of the greats that ever wore that jersey. But just now it's being a family man, a father. We thought our time was, ready to look somewhere else and find a new home and find a new place to grow our family. And like I said, I'm so grateful to be here and so happy to be a part of this team.
So the question I have off the back of that is, he said 1 or 2 years off the top, right? And I saw our boy Bunkus talking about this a little bit today on his show about just the blame that falls for not getting anything out of this on Shanahan and the belief of like, we're going to keep going back to the well and like everybody's safe. We're not going to Was that 2 years ago or was that 3 years ago that he said that?
Sure, it was 3 years ago. I think 2 years ago.
Was 2 years ago Boston or no, 2 years ago was when they lost to Florida in the second round. Or no, that's right. 3 years ago.
No,
I guess,
it was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
2 years ago was Boston.
7 games. Pasternak overtime, cut to the backhand off of Morgan Riley.
Yeah.
I don't remember that well, though.
What is your question?
So how much of the blame for the way that this is perceived is on Brandon Shanahan? And that's what I want to know, because I think Mitch is taking it really tough right now, and I'm part of it, fully admit that. But I do think that the outgoing president and his lack of, not lack, but like just not giving in to trading him and wanting to be right about this really cost the Leafs some futures here.
Yeah.
Like, he wanted to be right. He'd rather lose and be right than, be wrong and trade him, which is really frustrating as a fan.
Yeah, it takes a big man to admit that the plan hasn't worked, and
Correct.
the whole sunk cost thing, and just eat it like that. I definitely think that is a part of this. I think a good lesson is, and this isn't just trades and hockey. This is like, if someone doesn't want to be in your life and you're trying to force it and making sacrifices to make it work, doing everything you can. It's like, it's not, you can't control people. It's not meant to be. Mitch didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
And it probably should have done what the Islanders did with Dobson. Dobson started to press the Islanders. I want more. I got a new agent. They just said, all right, we don't need you then. Move on. Couple of picks. The Islanders have a fresh wave of players coming. The Leafs could have done something like that.
Like, how would, for example,
Yeah.
Kelly McCrimmon have handled that? Like, if you look back, if it was like him in Vegas in the Bizarro world where he's like not committing to being there, his no trade, like, he would have been traded 100%. 100%.
To get to back to your original question, the majority falls on Brendan Shanahan. The majority. And I mean, he's gone now. But yeah, this was all under his watch. So yeah, he's got to be a big boy and wear it, and he did. He lost his job, but he wanted to believe in this group to the point where he doubled and tripled down on it. And at what point should they have seen some red flags? At what point should they have had more concern about where this was headed? Brad Treliving's relatively new to this whole thing. Yeah. So, yeah, he's been here now a couple of seasons, but clearly he doesn't wear it like Brendan Shanahan, because he's still here and he's getting an opportunity to fix a lot of things right now.
Yeah.
But like, I look at the behavior of children, and I don't necessarily look at the child first. I'm like, where are the parents, and what's going on with the parents, and what are the parents saying, and what are they doing to rectify this behavior?
That's a bad dog. I wonder what happened with that dog.
So ultimately, yeah, I think for sure Brendan wears a lot of this. And at what point should they have identified where the tea leaves were telling you this was heading? That's, to me, the miss. Is that there were concerns behind the scenes, and I don't know whether you wanted to face them head on or you just brushed them under the carpet.
I will always be amazed that, like, we've talked about the accountability and lack of accountability. The fact that everybody came back after Montreal will always stick with me.
Mm-hmm.
That Dubas was still around, Keefe was still around, all four of the core guys, Morgan, like, everybody just got to, and listen, they went past the first round of the playoffs. The next year, I understand that, first time, whatever. But that year, when you still would have been able to trade Mitch, you still would have been able to trade Willie. Like, I'm not even saying it had to be Mitch, but it just had to be one of them at some point. And the fact that everyone came back after Montreal was insane to me. So that's maybe where it started.
So when I coached with Sheldon, and I say coached loosely, I helped him do the coaching with the Marlies. I remember being in a playoff series, and after the first game, we had gotten walked through the neutral zone, and he wanted to change our forecheck to something we hadn't done all season long, like game 2. And I was like, And
you told him you're crazy.
No, actually, yes, I did. I told him, this is not, that makes no sense. We're overreacting, whatever. And his point was just that in a short series, you don't have time to figure out if it was just bad luck that your strategy didn't work, or you have to make the adjustments and assume that was real information back to you. And it's funny that so many years they thought the Leafs just got unlucky in the playoffs. Tavares' injury happened the one year. We couldn't get the goaltending this year. They excused it away when they got the same information over and over. Yeah, they just didn't fall. Yeah. Next time they're fall. It's like, at some point you had to have made the call and said, make a pivot here.
Collectively, they had character flaws. It's like, sometimes you look at marriages and there's like positives and negatives, right?
Yeah.
And-
Sometimes they
there's a
offset, sometimes
balance.
they work
They
against
get-
each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But all of them had that same flaw.
We kept saying, can you tape grit to this
No,
core?
and
We
it's
had, how many
like
times we had that
Oh my
conversation?
God. You
four
can't.
guys.
The answer is you can't.
4 guys making $50 million, and every single one, come playoff time, want to go around you and not through you.
And then you bring in all these guys you want to throw body checks in the fourth line and go, there we go. That'll fix it. It's like, no, those guys aren't on the ice enough in the big moments for it to matter. So
Did you want to hear anything from McCrimmon about the trade at all?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. I put 3 in there. Well, let's do the first one, Derek, on the process to trade for Mitch. Clip 1.
You know,
please.
with respect to Mitch, we've had discussions with Toronto, going back a long time where we would have been interested in acquiring Mitch Marner. We had discussions at the trade deadline that were initiated by Toronto where they were trying to do a trade that involved another team. We weren't able to make it happen. When Mitch indicated, or it appeared that Mitch would be going to free agency, he was our target. He was the player that we wanted. And again, tying into why would you do that trade in advance? We wanted to eliminate other teams. We wanted to be able to create a one-on-one relationship with his representatives in terms of trying to do a contract, and that's how the deal came together.
I've gone on record to tell you guys that if it was me, I would have given Mitch Marner a window at the end of the summer to start the season, but I would have given him a hard date to say, I cannot let you walk out the door for free here. Okay? I need, if you are not signing with us, I need 2 teams, 4 teams. I need something. You got to give me something to work with.
Do you think they would have given that?
Hold on.
Sorry?
You think they would have given that?
This,
I would have demanded it.
This is the most sensitive camp
I
on
would have
earth.
Yeah.
demanded it.
This is the most sensitive camp and player on earth. I mean, you're bringing up comments in press conferences from years ago that, Tree didn't come out and say, we got to get this guy signed. It's like if they had gone to him and said, give me 2 teams, give me 4 teams, I demand it.
Yeah.
I mean, he might have packed up his ball
I
and
don't care.
bag and gone home.
Then pack up. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah. Listen, I agree
Okay?
with you.
You
That's
have a
right.
basic
But you were dealing with a
principle and you
live
just
wire.
Stick with it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
All right? It's over.
And they didn't show those stones. And I just talked Dobson and Darsh. They did there.
I cannot be embarrassed in this situation. And Brad almost was. He salvaged Nick Waugh, which was, I like him. And I think there's some good upside.
Yeah.
I think as close as you can get to anything of substance, usually these things are like a fourth
round
rounder,
pick,
a fifth rounder. They got a guy with some upside here.
27-year-old controllable right shot center who can play.
6'4".
Yeah, he can play.
He can play.
Yeah.
So good on Brad to get something, but he came this
But it ain't
close
Rantanen.
to mismanaging an asset that could have been regarded as one of the worst managed assets in NHL history.
No
It is-
question.
Yeah.
Can I ask you about that 3-team thing that he mentioned there?
Yeah.
Do you have any insight on what that was? Like, because I remember you brought up the Cowan
the
thing.
Theodore, I think, was involved before.
It was before the season.
Before
but at the
contract
deadline.
extension.
At the deadline, he alluded to
Nothing. And it wasn't even close.
Okay.
Of Mitch being traded to Carolina or anything. He wasn't going anywhere.
Well, because he kind of alluded to that he would have gone to, because he talked about how if there was somewhere he was going to go at the deadline, alluding to his wife being pregnant, that's a place that they wanted to stay and sign, which is 100% fair. I get that.
Yeah.
But at Vegas, there was part of a 3-team anyways. So I just wanted to bring that up.
There was nothing for the Leafs to think that they could. They just won the Atlantic Division. Or they were on their way to win the Atlantic Division. You're not taking your leading scorer where you're perceived as maybe the best window to win a Stanley Cup.
It was their best window.
Exactly. So they would have got crucified
Killed.
trading Mitch.
Well, if it was for Rantanen, it wouldn't have been. I mean,
Gone well.
That was not happening, though.
Rantanen had 16 points in 5 games.
The
at one
time,
point.
I mentioned this, the time to have read the tea leaves was when,
Colorado.
if you did your homework, you would have known that he had all types of problems with Colorado, and you could have possibly flipped him then.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only chance for Rantanen.
Anything else on that? Or
Nothing else on that.
Yeah. No, we're good. So what the hell are the Leafs going to do now?
Yeah, time to look around the league. Tree, who we're going to be joined by after the first break here.
Let's just get a quick thought on where July 1st stood for you with what you saw out of the Toronto Maple Leafs and Brad Treliving.
I think Anthony Petrilli wrote an article in Maple Leaf Hot Stove about free agency last year and just how hilarious the people who spent the most last year. So the most money spent on UFAs last year at free agency.
For
Predators, Kraken, Bruins, Blackhawks, Devils, Canucks. Those are the 6 highest spending teams in free agency last year.
yeah, and one made the playoffs.
One made the playoffs. And not even close for the Preds, for the Kraken, like not even close. Blackhawks. So the point is, the Leafs didn't do anything bad yesterday, which is a bigger risk than doing something, than the odds of getting something good on July 1st. So I'm okay with what they did. They took, some kind of low risk, high reward bets. And
Yeah.
now they're shopping for someone in a trade.
I look at what the Kings did.
Which deal do you wish the Leafs did that happened yesterday? Name one.
I guess Tanev,
Yeah,
kind of. Like 2.5 for 4?
I
Or
would have taken Brock Boeser.
for a depth guy.
yeah, I'd take Brock Boeser too.
I'd take Brock Boeser.
At that number?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't know. He's another shoot first, slow footed.
Yeah.
Not to completely get off topic here, but like, how does the Vancouver Canucks go from we don't want this guy on a long-term deal, we couldn't even get a first rounder for him, to giving him 7 years
And even Boeser,
$50 million?
Besser said day of he had full plans to not return, and then they called him and surprised him with an offer, and he was like, okay. Like they both kind of just went, all right.
Because they're like, what else are we going to do?
Yeah.
Good question for our Dan Murphy, who joined us at the top of the hour.
What's the relationship with Brock Boeser and Quinn Hughes? I'm assuming very tight.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, 2 American
Couple
guys.
American
play for the-
boys.
yeah,
I don't think it can hurt,
can't hurt.
right?
Can't hurt.
But even with Mitch Marner in the lineup, there were scoring issues here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in
so-
the playoffs there was, yeah.
So where's the scoring coming from?
I don't think they're as dead in that regards as other people. Matthews scored 33 last year after getting 69. It's not a 33 goal scorer. I think he can give you 50 next year. There's another 20.
Who's he playing with? Nyes and
it could be Michelli or Domi or
Morgan.
Certainly he needs someone else. The one year he had Domi and Bertuzzi, he outscored his pace than when Marner played on his line. So I'm not too worried about him getting to 50.
Okay.
The other guys are going to get some of that Mitch opportunity, who played 23 minutes a game or whatever. So I don't think they're fine. They need a top 6 guy. I'm not saying they don't, but I'm saying I don't think they're going to be a bottom 10 offense next year. Could be wrong, but
Where's that top 6 guy coming from, you say?
that's a good question. That's something, maybe we can ask Brad after the break.
There are, I think, was it Elliott that mentioned Kadri now?
No, I don't think that was real.
No?
I don't think that was real. But I saw that too, and I got really excited about it.
You did?
But I think it was somebody being in.
That's someone you like?
You know what?
Would that ease your mind a little bit if
Yes.
Kadri finds his way back to Toronto?
Yeah, of course.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
It's interesting. They suddenly have a lot of centers. Waugh can obviously do it, and Lawton can do it, and hell, Lorentz has done it in the past. Tavares, Matthews, Domi can do it. They got a lot of centers.
Lots of quantity.
Nylander,
totally. They don't have.
Nylander can do it.
Yeah, we'll never know. We'll never know.
I wonder if Berube will come out and like, we're gonna really try it this year,
I hope they do.
and then they just don't again.
So if Kadri's out there and you're trying to now build a deal that would satisfy Calgary, I'm not even sure the Leafs have what it takes to do it.
I don't see how it's possible.
How about Callie Yarncroc, David Kampf, Nick Robertson in
What was the running
2029
joke for years?
second
Connor
rounder.
Brown, Bracco in a second? Was that?
How about,
That's
how
exactly
about a first, a second, and someone?
We
Would
don't
you
have
do it?
what first?
No, I don't know. 2040. I don't know.
I think
2028.
You can only trade how many years in
how far
advance?
can you
They
go
have a
up?
28.
Can you go that far?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, you can go 29. They just,
Yeah.
the last deal they did has a conditional 29th in it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you can go.
They got their 2028 first.
Isn't it kind of over for like getting rid of all these first and second rounders, even if they are 2 or 3 years from now? Isn't it time to stop that?
Well, it's two different conversations. You could say
Stop
it is
getting
time
into
to
debt's
stop.
a good thing.
You could say it's time to stop, or it's time to just get rid of them all. Like, you have 4 years here
Yeah.
with all these guys in the team. It's like, with the guy you
3
drafted,
years.
yeah, sure, in 2028. Like, boy, he's going to be a great third line center when
gotta tell you,
everyone's gone.
When you're talking about like asset management, like you look, Carolina took a licking for the Rantanen thing. They turned expiring Natchez and Jack Drury into Stankoven extended, Keandre Miller, and they have 4 first-round picks in the next 3 years. You know, it'd be nice to be good and have picks.
Yeah.
You know,
That's allowed, I
other
guess.
teams
Yeah.
have pulled that off somehow miraculously. So I don't know. I don't know when, if you spend them or stop spending them.
I'm now at the point where, like,
Maybe stop.
It's too deep.
what do you call it? Billy Ball or Billy Bean Ball?
Yeah.
Like
Moneyball?
Moneyball. Like we saw a little Moneyball yesterday out of Brad Treliving.
Yeah. Do you think,
This may be the only way here. I am not a fan right now of any more top picks, no matter how far in the future they are, or Easton Cowan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would put him out there right now for Kadri.
No, I'm ready to see Cowan. I'm ready to let Cowan have a run at things and see if he's.
we should break. General manager's calling in 5 minutes, so.
Okay. Brad Treliving, a lot of questions for the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs next on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Welcome back to the show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee in a few minutes or shortly. Brad Treliving, general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, will join us. Outside of Leaf talk in general, just with the cap going up and all this talk about new money, we didn't really see it yesterday, did we?
Yeah, I don't know.
Ken Holland saw it. Oh.
Yeah, Ken Holland used it.
Okay, let's pick up the conversation with the general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Brad Treliving. Tree, thanks for joining us. I know maybe some Leaf fans, I don't know if I want to use the word disappointed or not, but there wasn't a major signing with one of the top free agents available yesterday to fill in maybe for Mitch Marner. But how would you have described your last 24 or 26 hours so far?
Well, thanks for having me on, guys, first of all. Well, it's been busy as it is on July 1st. You know, really, I think this probably it went, I think, as we anticipated. And by that, I mean the majority of players that we looked at as potential fits for us were re-signed to their teams, right? So it's one thing to speculate about who's going to get signed and who would look good. It's another for players to actually get there. So when you looked at that pool of players that we felt could fit into a spot for us, you know, if you talk about, you know, a top 9 role, a top 6 role higher in your lineup, the pool became increasingly shallow from what the projections were. When you look at who's a projected free agent on June 27th, that pool of players became a lot less on July 1st. And so we certainly were active in talking to, you know, a number of players, and, you know, whether it be, you know, not necessarily wanting to, not seeing a fit with us or not wanting to come here, or contractual requirements not fitting. You know, I kind of thought it was going to go the way it did yesterday, in terms of not being able to necessarily address, you know, with Mitch leaving sort of that offensive side of things, and got to that feeling really probably a week ago. And part of that was the reason we looked at a Michelli deal, you know, in terms of a player that can bring some offensive ability, a player who we think had a down year last year, and there's more upside there at a relatively inexpensive cost. So that's probably a summary of yesterday, and we continue to pick away at it here today and moving forward.
Brad, thanks for coming on with us today. We really appreciate it. I wanted to follow up on the comment you had made yesterday in the press conference and hear a little bit, like being aware in terms of looking to replace a top six forward, find someone to fit into one of those spots. What is the timeline or process for you of kind of, I don't know if you're calling around the league and you get a list of guys who might be available. What does the process look like? And what do you expect that to, I guess in terms of, would that be something you're looking to do in the next week? Is that a summer-long venture? How do you aim to fill that hole?
Well, the process for it, Justin, is once the season comes to an end, you touch base with every team in the league. So you explain what you're looking for. They explain sort of what their situation is. So you have a pretty good handle after once you've done your individual team meetings of what's potentially out there. And it comes back to me at that point where there wasn't a huge appetite for people to move players, right? You have a rising cap. You've got a shortage of top players. You've got a lot of teams, whatever window they're in, or whatever stage their team's in. I think the league is in it. I would describe it right now as everybody's trying to take a step. Everybody's trying to, not necessarily throw a lot of people off the boat. And a large portion of the reason for that is because you've got a rising cap, right? There isn't. We've seen in the last, really in the last number of years when we've operated really in a flat or a marginal increase cap where people run into issues, right? And so now they've got to make decisions and move somebody out. There certainly wasn't that, there wasn't a lot of that going on in the league. Therefore, there's players that, less players hit in the market, less players available, and more people retaining their own players. So, and the other piece with it is just identify what we're looking. I think I mentioned it the other day. It's just not as simple as saying, okay, Mitch has moved on. We go replace Mitch. To me, it's, you kind of got to do that in the aggregate, right? The opportunity allows you is more cap space, and can you try to get more depth? Can you try to spread it around? Can you, over the course of maybe a couple of moves, replace the offense that's required or that you're trying to replace, and spread that out throughout the lineup? So as far as timing, it's a good question. You'd like to do it yesterday. You'd like to do it today. You'd like to do it tomorrow. I don't know. I mean, we don't play here till October. And the question people always ask, are you finished? I don't think you're ever finished, right? You're always looking to try to improve your team. You don't know when those opportunities are going to surface. If somebody gets into a jam, if somebody's, whatever the opportunity is, but you have a pretty good handle on what people are trying to do, what players may become available, and you just take that information and then, you try to get out and, whether it be through free agency or through trade, try to, upgrade yourself and find players that could fit and provide what you're looking for.
You're listening to Brad Treliving, general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Brad, just to put a bow or conclusion on the Mitch Marner story here, if you look back at your year and a half or 2 years, whenever you showed up here, and looking back in hindsight right now, is there anything you would have done differently, acted differently, pushed harder for maybe a list once you started realizing that he may not be coming back? Is there anything that you've learned throughout the process that could help you moving forward?
Well, I think it's always great in hindsight to look back and say what you would change. At the end of the day, I don't think anything was going to change, right? And again, I'm not going to get into the weeds on a blow by blow of the Mitch situation. I think Mitch is a tremendous player. I said it the day I got here. He's a top player. He's an unbelievable talent. Just look at his statistical, production since he's entered the league, his time with the Leafs. He was a great Leaf. We approached Mitch's Mitch's camp. Really, even from the time that I got here, about what his plans were. Those were always to be a Leaf. At the appropriate time, excuse me, when we could, we approached them about engaging in a contract discussion. They made it clear that they wanted to wait. As you go through that process, and you get if you've been in the business long enough, you have gut feels of how things are going to go. And by no means do I criticize the player. That's the player's right. And then you look at other options. And Mitch negotiated a no move clause, which is fully in his rights. So when we look at opportunities to move on, or opportunities at potential transactions, at the end of the day, Mitch held the cards with those. And again, I'm not going to get into any into the weeds here of those discussions, because I think those are between myself, his representative, and the player, which I always think are, I ask for honest conversation with my players and representatives, and those are held in confidence. But at the end of the day, there wasn't a path to a different outcome, despite looking at different opportunities or potential different scenarios. And so we are where we are. So you always retrospectively look back in anything you do, and how do you do it better? I don't know at the end of the day if there was an option or an opportunity that was going to work, that was going to provide a different outcome.
And I imagine just those basic principles that you just said with the no move apply to Morgan Riley and whoever has them in your lineup moving forward.
Yeah, any conversations I have will remain confidential. So I appreciate the interest, but I've got nothing to add there.
I got to try, Brad.
Yeah. Well, you are looking at a situation where Power Play 1 was Mitch was running the point now. Do you expect to see Morgan back running that unit?
Well, we're July 2nd, so we haven't.
Who's running the Power Play, Brad?
on the wall yet. But listen, those are conversations we have every day, right? Chief's in here, we talk. We're side by each here right now as we look at different options, and every scenario that you look at, you've got it on the wall with what job opportunity are you looking to replace, or what holes do you have, and who's going to do the different jobs. I mean, again, I come back to it is when with Mitch going away, you're not just taking a player and saying, okay, he's going to do Mitch's job. Mm-hmm. And so now you have to look at different opportunities. You got to look at different opportunities for different players. A year ago, we didn't know necessarily if Matthew Nyes was going to be a fit with Austin, and you don't know where there's going to be chemistry. So at the end of the day, what we look at now is how do we use the space that we have, and certainly, offense is an area that's, we've got a guy who's gotten 100 points that's left our team. We think we've replaced a little bit of ability here with Michelli, but we've got to do more. And all the different things that Mitch did, whether it be on the power play, whether it be 5-on-5 and the penalty killing, those are just areas we need to replace. So whether that's certain players in our team taking on some different roles, and certainly looking to add to our roster to help fill that in. So probably a long way of answering. I don't know exactly yet what our power play, how that's going to break down. We have certainly some ideas and some options and lots of discussion on it, and we'll see how the days unfold here moving forward as we get closer to camp.
So with Mitch Marner gone, where are you on your DNA? You still looking for a few more molecules?
Yeah, it's surprising how a guy makes a comment. It's sticking, apparently. Yeah, and I get it. Again, the whole idea of that comment, we sometimes forget how the context or how the context of the question that was raised, and a lot of it was, when I look back in the 2 years that I've been here. And listen, you get to the end of the season, everybody's emotional, right? You lose in Game 7 of the second round, and it feels like you haven't made the playoffs in 10 years, right? So you have to take a step back. My observation is there's a lot of good things that happened with our team last year. Now, in that particular series, at very critical moments, and as I mentioned, we were in some critical moments. Game 6 was a critical moment. We Game 6 in Ottawa was a critical moment. But I found in the 2 years that I've been here, we were short some bodies in Game 7 in Boston. We lose 2-1 in overtime, or we lose an overtime game in Game 7. We didn't have good games in Game 5 and Game 7 here. I look at it as it doesn't get talked about, I don't think, but Game 3 was a great opportunity too. We're in overtime to go up 3-0 in that lead, but certainly the way it ends in Game 7, in a critical area, a critical moment, we need to be better. So that's where our DNA, and it's not just airlifting in 20 new players and shooting everybody that's here. That's just, I get the emotional reaction from people. It's how can we be better? How do we improve? How do we improve mentally? How do we improve in those moments that are critical? And certainly, personnel is one, preparation's another, mental toughness is another. So there's a lot that goes into it. And, I know the easy reaction is any player that's signed, it gets stuck to DNA. But just to give a little context of behind the headline of what I was talking about with that answer.
That's great stuff. So we'll help you turn the page to the guys who are here. Like Michelli, excited to see what he can do. Tell us a little bit about your expectations for Nick Waugh, why he was someone you targeted. And then if you could just throw in a comment on Pizzetta, who I absolutely love watching play hockey, that would make me happy as well.
Yeah, well, with Nick, I think Nick is, he may not be the big sexy name, but to me, Nick's a player that helps you win. And if you're trying to be a winning team, you need, we've heard Lou talk about it in years past. It's like building an orchestra. You need everybody in the right chair. And Nick was in a situation in Vegas where, he's playing behind Eichel, Carlson, Hurdle. I mean, those are three pretty good centermen.
Yeah.
But he's a big right shot centerman, can kill penalties, can play in a matchup role, can play against other teams' best, and he's got a sneaky skill set. He's got good hands around the net. He gets to the net. As I said, he can kill penalties. He gives us something in the middle of the ice that we didn't have. He's a right shot it's a right shot penalty killing option. So right shot face off, strong side face offs. It gives us another option there. And really, just to give you a little insight in your team building standpoint is, we all get infatuated with 1, 2, 3, 4 in terms of lines and first line centers and second line centers, and probably 20 plus teams in the league are looking for the prototypical second line center. But a lot of what the game is in matchups. And I've used the analogy with Winnipeg, and again, no team is perfect, but that's a pretty darn good team that won the President's Trophy. And again, when you look down the middle of the ice for them, you've got Scheifele as your number one. On paper, you've got Nemestikov as 2 and Lowry as 3. But again, it all comes down to deployment. And if you have somebody, when I look at our roster here right now, with Nick Waugh that can take a lot of defensive heavy lifting, defensive zone starts, defensive face-offs, and matchups, when you put those into a pot, it allows you to not get necessarily lost on your 1, 2, and 3, but spread out matchups and situational play that could free up different people, whether you're talking about Austin, John, and Scotty Lawton. So when I look down the middle of our ice right now, I think it gives us a lot of different options. And like I said, he was important. He was an important player. He was an important player for us to get. It's a player that we've had a lot of interest for a long time. So we're excited to get him. With Michelli, again, when we look at our roster and subtracting Mitch from there, of trying to look at the aggregate of how do we replace some of the assets that Mitch had, and one of them obviously was playmaking ability. And again, this is maybe a name that's recognizable to a lot of people. He's coming off a down year, had some injuries and fell out of favor and lost some confidence. But he's, when you really dig into him, he's a guy who makes a lot of plays, can retrieve pucks off the wall, goes into traffic, has got really good vision, moves around the ice really well, but has the ability to elevate others in terms of, making plays. And the thought process behind it is we have people that can finish. A lot of play driving and offensive distribution is an area, as I said, with Mitch being gone, that we were looking for. So we felt that this was the opportunity cost was manageable, and we've got some ideas where he'll fit, but bringing in that skill set we felt was something that potentially has some upside for us. And then with Pizzetta, he brings forechecking ability. He skates real well. He's a very willing competitor, which I think you can never have too much of. And he plays hard. He's a great teammate. We'll see how it all sorts itself out here, but he's a guy that is never going to cheat you with effort. And it gets back to the comment I made earlier that you need all kinds when you're building a team to fit in different roles. And so we were glad that Michael came to us, and he'll give us some juice.
Brad, we know it's been a busy 24 hours and probably will be for the next little while for you. We really appreciate your time coming on the show. Thanks for doing this.
You bet, guys. Thanks for having me on, and happy belated Canada Day.
You as well. You as well.
Too. Thanks for your time.
I'm surprised you're working today, Kyper. I thought the tires squeal after July 1. And you're not heard from again.
You're going to hear him real soon. Don't worry.
It's almost time.
Yeah.
Brad Treliving,
Okay.
General Manager of the Toronto Maple
Thanks.
Leafs, and real stand-up guy.
Yeah.
He
is.
didn't have to come on. He's like a free agency. A couple days in, he could have
Still doing
completely blown us off.
I would have liked it that he blew us off, because that would mean that he was in the middle of doing something. Remember when Alvin did that when he was signing Pettersson or signing something? He didn't show
showed
up?
us. Yeah.
JB, are you crazy asking him about three guys?
Well, I didn't mean Michelli. I just wanted.
I don't think he's ever given an answer under 30 seconds.
I opened the door.
I'm glad you didn't ask him the first question. We wouldn't have got in any more questions. But all kidding aside, I thought his answer to DNA was excellent. That we just assume that it's just bodies moving in and out, and it's not. It's the whole package, right?
We needed some mutations from the current DNA.
Okay, 2-hour show. Just like that, our first hour's up, but we're sticking around. We'll take it around the league as well. Still plenty of news on free agency. Don't
Dan
go
Murphy,
away.
Jason Gregor.
Real Kyper and Bourne. We continue after these words. Welcome back in studio, the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, and Jake the Snake Schultz. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. I think we're 9:60 in Calgary and 6:50 in Vancouver as well.
Yeah, we're shows at a different time every weekday this week, so
Yeah.
I'm having a tough time keeping track of where the hell we
11:69 in the pod.
Can you just keep us steady somewhere? You're the producer. Don't you have any pull around here?
I'm producing a vacation in a couple days, buddy.
As a reminder, this hour of Real Kyper and Bourne brought to you by Bet365. In a few minutes, we'll welcome in Dan Murphy, host of Hockey Night in Canada, Canucks hockey on Sportsnet. Plenty of news out of the Vancouver Canucks, including one Brock Boeser back on 7 years. $50.75 million. A contract we thought there's no hope to ever see the light of day, because the thought was that Vancouver had no interest in Brock Boeser on a long-term deal. This isn't 8 years. He was eligible to get 8. He took 7. But hopefully Dan Murphy can tell me like where the change came to, or the light bulb went off for Jimmy Rutherford, Patrick Alvin on this one, JB.
It is interesting that this wasn't offered prior to that moment. You know, like they just sort of decided last minute to go above and beyond any previous attempts to sign him, it sounds like. And Boeser was not under the impression he was coming back. So I can't wait to hear from Dan how he sees how it all played out. God, I loved that goal, by the way.
It was a slap shot.
He just skates into one and shoots it. 20 seconds left or something. But yeah, so you mentioned this, Kip. Is second you lose a Boeser, you're trying to figure out how to get a Boeser. You know, you need someone to score goals on your team. He's an American guy who Quinn Hughes probably likes. He doesn't want to see their team take a step backwards. Is it Quinn Hughes related?
Oh, my gosh. You sign a guy to $50 million because you think another guy is friends
but he's also,
likes him?
he's also good.
I would say,
hangs out with him?
say it's in the pro side of the pros and con ledger. You know?
For sure.
Doesn't have to be the reason, but.
It's not like bringing in Bronny Jr. for LeBron. Like, he's a good hockey player. He scored 30 in the league.
Yeah.
Like, he's a good player. But
Slagging Bronny Jr.? Or
Yes.
just Bronny, I suppose.
yes, Bronny.
Yes. Yeah. So that's interesting. The Garland one is funny. You know, you'd look at the Tavares deal he just signed after a 38-goal season. Garland got 6 years at $6 million. That's a pretty hefty contract. They brought the band back. How do they get better?
Evander Kane.
Oh.
No, not enough.
No, well, it's not nothing if he's healthy. I'm curious to see because he was hips too, right? Did he get hips done?
No idea.
No, there's multiple issues
Okay.
on him, and I can't confirm it, but it sounds like you're in the vicinity because he had a lot of issues.
The hip bone's connected to the leg bone.
Well, like, what? Yeah. I was watching Patrick Kane get his hips figured out and then become a contributor again. Is there a chance that Evander Kane can be of value to the Canucks?
I mean, they were pretty good 2 years ago. Like, they went to Game 7 against the Oilers.
I know, and Canucks fans are listening to this, but I was shocked by their success that year.
Okay.
No, but I was. I mean, I didn't think they were.
I guess JT Miller's not there anymore, and it's a different
But
thing.
Do you think
Heedle could give them some more?
Do you think this is a signing where it's a message sending to the fans that like we're going to make the playoffs next year, or at least we're our expectations are to make the playoffs next year? And it's funny because a lot of these announcements outside of Evander Kane is just you're bringing back the same players you had before, the same ones that
Fell short.
missed the playoffs,
Yep.
right? But a guy that can probably speak more to of this than us here, Dan Murphy, host of Hockey Night in Canada, Canucks on Sportsnet. Murph, thanks for joining us, man. The ball was out. Chalk flew up.
Huh? What?
His T-shirt.
I lost you there. Ask me again, Kipper.
The ball was out. Chalk flew up.
Oh, is that McEnroe on the shirt? Or is it Terry Fox?
It's John McEnroe.
Oh, it's McEnroe.
I'm right. For those of you that cannot see, we have Dan Murphy on Zoom. He's wearing a classic John McEnroe T-shirt, and the first thought I had was chalk flew up. Are you with me, Murph? Or is it just the first T-shirt you grabbed?
I don't know if there's a connection problem here, Sammy. I'm not sure. Kipper's microphone is kind of all garbled.
Oh,
okay,
boy.
should we reconnect with him?
Yeah, I guess. This is our first ever Zoom issue that we've had.
Wow.
I know. I thought we would. It's almost July. We haven't got this wrinkle figured out.
That's pretty good,
I don't
though,
know.
for the year.
I feel
No. Everybody felt on the NHL draft show.
The most awkward moment was at
The Boston Bruins.
Hagen's with Boston. They were like, "Oh, what do you want to say to your new pick?" And they were just nothing. And he was, and he looks at the screen, and goes, "Thanks for picking me."
Oh.
And Ottawa also had issues as well. All right, Murph, we're going to try this again. Take 2. You good now?
Not looking good.
No.
No.
I can hear Borny, but Kyper, you're garbled.
I'm garbled.
Oh, I got you.
Oh. Maybe there's no mic issues and I'm just garbled. You good now, pal?
I'm good. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Outside of your John McEnroe T-shirt, let's get to the Vancouver Canucks. Okay. What is the message when Brock Boeser comes back when really no one thought that was the case all season long?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was something out of the blue. Like, I don't know what odds you would have had to give me to put $1 on him returning in the morning. I'm not sure I would have put $1 on it.
Yeah.
And something changed. And you can look at it twofold. On one hand, the Canucks, along with probably 28 or 29 other teams, found out just how difficult it was to try to add quality players to the top six. I mean, the prices were too expensive. There weren't any in free agency. It was not possible to do so. And I think when they lost out on Dvorak, which was a target for them, they made a call back to Boeser's camp. And, they probably thought too, like, look at this board with Marner off of it. 2 of the top 3 goal scorers on there are guys that we're just letting walk. Should we do this? So they went back to Boeser's camp, and on Boeser's end, I think the realization hit him just how difficult it was going to be to leave a place he didn't want to leave. He was resigned to it. He was going to test UFA, but when all being called, he's like, get a deal done. They went up in term. They got it to 7. I think the total money he wanted was somewhere around $50 million, and the deal was finished. And I think Boeser's happy, and I think the team is happy. Now, what message does it send? I mean, should you be running it back with the same group of guys that missed the playoffs last year, that had one of the most disappointing seasons in a long time, that failed miserably to meet expectations, that had a locker room filled with drama? I mean, a lot of people say, why? But the players themselves say that, yes, there was the locker room issue, but it's not as big as what people are making it out to be. We were hurt all year. Nobody had good seasons. We couldn't stay healthy, and we missed the playoffs by 3 points. We feel that we're a good team, and I think that bringing back Brock Boeser, he feels like they're not that far away, even with the new coach. And I think you can even say that with Demko and Garland as well. Like, they were ready to commit. And with Demko, of course, the history of the injuries, but Garland willing to sign for 6 more years because I think they believe the team is much better than what it showed last year.
I'll let you just jump in, but just I want to just say quickly that should we give Brock Boeser a little bit of credit here, because it was almost as if it was a foregone conclusion that he wasn't really welcomed back all season long. The trade deadline comes up, and I know we took it maybe differently than when it came out of, I believe, Patrick Alvin, that we couldn't even get a first rounder for him. We could barely get anything for him. And yet the guy didn't tell Vancouver Canucks to go pound salt, the other day.
Well, I mean, this is a two-way street. Brock Boeser you see what happened in Toronto with Marner leaving, and there's some vitriol and the fan base is unhappy. If Boeser would have left, there would have been nothing but love and sadness, right? Yeah. There's an emotional connection with this player in this fan base and this city. Kind of like he's our guy, right? Drafted, developed, the longest tenured guy, just a model citizen in the dressing room, on the streets, with the fan base. We know his history. He has opened up emotionally about the struggles he's had with his family's history of health problems. So I think it's just like he's a player that the people know and love. And I think it kind of goes the other way too. He did not want to leave. I think he was getting a little anxious and a little nervous. He was ready to test it, and he would have had multiple teams, like upwards of 10 teams offering him a deal. But his heart was in Vancouver, and so he was willing to take, I'm sure he could have got 8.5 on the open market, take a little bit less money to stay where he's comfortable and to try to help this team that, there's some loyalty there with him as well.
So, like 2 weeks ago, they didn't want him?
I think that well, first off, I think they didn't want to give more than 5 years. That was last year. He wanted term.
Yeah.
I think they realized how difficult this was going to be. They still want a center. They went and got Evander Kane. They needed help in the middle six, right? They got him, and they couldn't figure out a way to get anyone else. Like, they tried to get Ross.
So what happened with Dvorak? You mentioned they couldn't outdo 1 times 5.4.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that was they wanted a centerman, and I mean, Dvorak didn't have a great season last year. I don't think that unless Suter is signed since we've got on this call, I don't think the door is closed on Suter either. I think that if they can move salary, and the names out there are Joshua or Bluger, I think they would like to return him to the fold, because right now, I don't think there's a team in the league that has more question marks with its top two centers in Pettersson and Hedl, right? I mean, there's a million questions there. And then your next two centers after that, as it stands now, are Ratu and Bluger. I think they would love to bring back Suter.
Yeah.
And have him as part of that center group for a little more depth. And if they have to lose one of those other players, so be it. So I don't think that's dead. But when you see Mikael Granlund going for $7 million a year, there might be a chance you can't spend the money on Suter.
You're watching and listening to Dan Murphy, host of Hockey Night in Canada, the Canucks on Sportsnet. So Murph, Demko gets the number of a top goaltender in the National Hockey League, but doesn't necessarily get the term, only 3 years. But is it still a huge gamble when you consider where he's been health-wise for the Vancouver Canucks?
I mean, there's always going to be a risk. I mean, 2 seasons ago, he was a Vezina finalist, but only played 1 game in the playoffs. Last year, there was the Poplatias thing to start it. Didn't play until December, had some injuries. All I can say is this. They're confident and comfortable that he's fully healthy now. He's having a full summer of training for the first time in like forever. He's already on the ice, which is earlier than he's ever been on the ice. He's got a new trainer. So they're doing some different things. And the fact that they have Lankinen means they can play them, they can split the games. Mm-hmm. There doesn't have to be a workload that's going to be crazy for Thatcher Demko. They know that Lankinen probably can't play 55, 60, but he can certainly play 40 quality games for you. And if you split the two, I think that's the ideal scenario. So yes, Demko left some years on the table. The Canucks gave him a little more AAV than they probably would have liked, considering what's happened last year. But again, it's a situation where they're comfortable with it. They think that he can get back to where he was, and they're confident that he will. And, I'll say this too, like, for all the stories out there that the Canucks, obviously last year was a gong show, or whatever the term you want to say, a tire fire, a dumpster fire, all that. The locker room was crazy. Well, you've got 3 players, one in UFA, Boeser, and 2 players that were, signed on the first possible day they could in Demko and Garland, all Americans, by the way, wanting to stay in Vancouver. So
awesome
maybe the room isn't quite as bad as we made it out to be, or maybe they feel like that was more blown up than it should have been. I don't know.
I think that's great, Murph, and I think it's a great sign that even when things are imperfect, people still want to be in Vancouver. I think, you add some success and make it, it can be a real destination for guys. I am curious to know how you think they'll be affected by a change in head coach. Rick Tocchet was a pretty impactful, confident voice. Adam Foote, not been an NHL head coach in the past. Chosen over Manny Malhotra. I don't know if you'd put it that directly that he was chosen over him, but what are your thoughts on the coaching situation this year?
Well, I was surprised by how many times the players on their Zoom calls, Boeser this morning and Garland yesterday, mentioned how often they'd talked to Adam already. So clearly the lines of communication are open and fully open. I think that Adam's going to want to be his own guy, but I think one of the big reasons why they chose him is this is a team that still needs to win, right? We all know the Quinn Hughes situation. They don't want to take a step back. They want to push and try to get better. Well, the one area that they're fairly sound is in goal and on defense. If you bring in a guy that's going to totally change the system, you might blow up the first month of your season. And if this team started 5-10-2 because they couldn't grasp a new system that a new coach was putting in place, they're in real trouble. So I think that the fact that Foote is probably going to play a similar defensive system was a big key in him getting the job, because they feel that side's okay. It's, can we score enough goals? And I'm sure he'll have his own wrinkles, but I think that they were comfortable that the same style of defensive system that Tocchet ran, I think Foote will probably run, and I think that went into the decision-making for Foote getting hired.
So you say still needs to win, which equates to needs to make the playoffs, and you bring Evander Kane in, it ain't to rebuild anything, man. They have to present Vancouver Canuck fans a team that they believe should be one of 16 at the dance next spring.
Yep. And like I said, the questions are huge with Pettersson. You're hoping that, I think it all rests on Pettersson, if I'm being honest. right? He can't be a 50-point guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to be an 80-point guy. Maybe he's not going to get back to 100. I'm not sure. But I think the main big question rests at the feet of Pettersson. Hedl, if he's healthy, is he a second-line center? Maybe not on a cup team. Maybe he's your third-line center. But for now, they're comfortable going with those two. And if something shakes loose as the season goes on, they'll address it. But I think that they feel like despite everything that went on last year, we missed the playoffs by 3 points. And it couldn't have gone worse. So let's just pray that we don't have another season where everything that can go wrong goes wrong. What's that, Murphy's Law? And we're going to be okay and make the playoffs. And so I don't think they got worse yesterday, and there weren't a lot of teams that got better yesterday. Montreal maybe. There are a couple teams, Carolina, I think, but not a lot of teams did what they wanted to yesterday. And the Canucks, even though it was unconventional the way they got around to it, they did address a goal-scoring need by bringing back Brock Boeser.
Yeah. This is, I don't know. I want to ask you about Quinn Hughes, and everyone talked about a lot of that stuff, the potential for him to eventually leave and go play with his brothers and how real that is. Have we moved into a state where he could be LeBron James and just be like the GM of the Canucks and be like, hey, if you guys want me here, you got to go get this guy. You got to keep this guy. Would he have more of an impact with this looming threat?
I don't think so.
I don't think he'd ever do that. He's too laid back.
I don't think Rutherford kind of gives me that vibe that he's going to let someone dictate.
Right.
I think they will certainly have conversation with him. Yeah. And I think one thing that, I'm not saying he's going to be here after next year. I don't know. But I think the one thing that might give fans a little more comfort is nobody's leaving. Any team. Free agents stayed. They had a chance, I think, to, make a whack of dough with this salary cap going up, and nobody wanted to leave anywhere.
Murph, hold on. No, nobody has two brothers waiting for him.
How can they afford that? And if you were a coach, would you want three brothers on the same team?
God, no. They're calling their own plays at that point. It's too many.
Good point.
It is going to be fascinating to see. I hope it's not much of a story, because the Canucks, it'd be fun to see them.
What does that mean, not much of a story? It's a distraction that will not go away.
No question. Yeah, no question. It's always going to be looming. I get the sense that probably.
What if he just says, I don't want to go?
Okay, please get him to say it, and we're good.
I think Quinn is pretty good at saying the right things too, and he is always giving off the loyalty vibe. And I think he'll address it in some way at the start of the season. That'll probably be it, until we get closer to see if the team is a good team or a bad team. We're getting close to the deadline. I think it will all shake out, but there's no question that that's the storyline that's hanging over the season, the entire season, not the beginning of the season.
So Jimmy Rutherford has this reputation. Do we wait for this reputation to kick in? Is there something lurking? Like, there's got to be something big for Jimmy. We know he's itching.
Well, I think Patrick and Jim are always looking, but I just don't know what's available, right? I don't. I mean, I think that the biggest thing right now might be Suter, and I don't know if they can get that done. But they're always looking to make a big splash. But as we saw, there's just, when every team feels they're one or two moves away from being that much better, no one's selling. And so unless you're willing to really overpay, which the Canucks can't afford to do right now with where the cap's at, then I'm not sure what can be done. But I'd never put it past him. He's never been shy to pull the trigger, that's for sure.
Murph, great stuff as always. Our thanks to you and John McEnroe. All season long, man, coming on our show. We really appreciate it. Have a great one if we don't catch up until the fall, and all the best, pal.
Cabot next weekend.
Oh, come on. Go away.
I did St.
End
Lucia.
the interview.
You going to St. Lucia?
Cape Breton, baby.
Cape Breton. I have not done
man.
Cape Breton yet.
Send pictures.
Okay.
Yeah, I will.
Dan
Okay,
Murphy
boys.
does an amazing job. He's a pro.
Sent me a video last year of himself playing golf with Adam Hadwin.
Yeah.
And,
right. And Nick Taylor.
And Nick Taylor. Yeah, like he's
good.
in with the Canadian big boy golfers.
Well,
I've played Cap a couple times.
top in the world right now.
Yeah.
Game time?
Oh, sure. Yeah. It's game time. Presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. I'll give you guys one guess what I'm going to talk about in game time today.
Jays.
I got to tell you, thanks so much for letting me go early yesterday.
Well, you put us over a barrel. We had
I
no
know.
chance.
But I just saw the back of your shoes like in 1 second.
I went full tree on you guys. I extorted you. I was like, I'm going to do.
Not a mention pre-show, nothing. Just,
Canada Day.
we looked like real
is-
bad guys.
It's outside of a playoff game.
Yeah.
It's the best game of the year.
I'd never been to it before,
Yeah,
and I
I
got there
have.
just in time for the national anthem, and they did the flyover,
Rockin'
which
game.
flyover, gets the juices flowing. But yeah, it was an incredible baseball game, and the Toronto Blue Jays won. George Springer
Sure
turning back
did.
the clock again tonight.
MVP.
Again tonight. The Toronto Blue Jays, Bet365, our beloved Bet365, giving the Jays no respect again. Underdogs tonight against the New York Yankees. Just one game back now in the division of the New York Yankees.
Wow.
Minus 130, the Yankees are. The Toronto Blue Jays are plus 110 with Jose Barrios on the bump, who has been excellent this year. In his last few starts, he's been really, really good. Just give me the Jays again. Why not tonight again?
Hammering the Jays.
The Jays are hot, and I see no reason why they should not win again tonight. So give me the Jays at plus 110. Yeah, but it feels like Aaron Judge might hit a home run. So give me an Aaron Judge home run at plus 225.
Okay, why not?
So there you go. That was Game Time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. One more quick Jays thing? There's things that happen over a season that make it start to feel like it's going to be a magic season.
Mhm.
And the Jays went down early in that game, right? The sun was beaten down. People were getting pulled out. It was so hot.
Yeah.
And it looked like Gosman was struggling a bit. They go down 2-zip. He fights through it. And then Jimenez, who you guys probably have the similar power at the dish of him.
Not
Not a home run hitter. He's had a few this year, more than usual. Max Fried, Cy Young favorite. They're going up against each other. Lefty on lefty matchup. 2 men on, and he hits a bomb to dead center field. It must have been bashed
He'll
out the
remember
batter's
that
eye.
the rest of his
It must have
career.
been 410 center field.
Yeah.
Just little things start to make you feel like this might be a different kind of year for the Jays. So it was exciting.
George Springer, last 7 games, 12 hits, 3 homers, 15 RBIs.
Let's mark
462.
down July 2nd as the date that Sammy kabuki'd the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yes, this is
because
the
he
peak
did
of the
the exact same thing with the Leafs.
What are you talking about? The Leafs
This
did the
feels different this year
It
with
was
the Leafs.
different.
Stolers,
They went literally
Stars, and
as
Wall.
far as they've ever
This
gone
is
in this era.
I'm really feeling it now. This is going to be different.
I'm not allowed to be excited about anything of this
It
show.
was different.
It was different. They went as far as they've ever gone. Literally. So, yeah, Jays are sick. George Springer, one of the best moments I've had at the ballpark ever was that grand slam yesterday.
When they put
Amazing
this
moment.
show together for the podcast and YouTube, I'm getting Sammy deleted from his comments about this year's different for the Blue Jays.
That's a good idea.
I don't think it's, it's
Were
clearly.
you at the bat flip game?
No. I was at Edwin Encarnacion walk-off.
I think we were on the air.
For the wild card. Who was?
I certainly
I was on the air Sportsnet.
Oh, I was going to say
38
us?
pints deep.
No. No, this is a while ago.
I was at the walk-off Edwin wildcard game against Baltimore, which was fantastic. So, yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we return, Jason Gregor, host of the Jason Gregor Show in Edmonton, will join us. We'll talk Oilers, who's in, who's out, and Bouchard, what his thoughts are on that massive 4-year deal.
McDavid?
And a little Connor McDavid. Of course, Sammy, for you, and the potential of him becoming a Toronto
I
Maple
never
Leaf
said Leafs.
in your
I
dream
never said
world.
Leafs, bud.
Dream.
There's lots of great teams around the league that he's from the hometown of,
Okay,
for sure.
Quiet.
Okay.
Back after these words. The Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee.
What's going on with you?
I don't know. I'm just giggling.
At?
Justin's commercial for, thank God you have Jiffy. I'm telling you,
Oh, this-
because
Oh, did they just play one of those?
you live in a money pit, man. Your house is rotting. It needs primer, paint. You need wood filler.
Falling apart, dude. My house was built in 1905.
But he just,
Really?
Either 05 or 12. It's either, I forget, it's one of the two numbers.
Pitch
So
it
it's like,
down.
it's like 112, 20 years old.
The year this Titanic sank.
Yeah, well, my house was built out of the wood from the bottom of the
April
ocean.
13th, 1912. He used to be a big Titanic
but
guy.
you're going to live in that thing forever. No one's buying it.
No one's buying it. Well, you know what? Thanks to all the help from Jiffy, it'll look brand new.
Yes, it
Go
will.
back to your shanties.
Yes, it will. All right, let's go to Edmonton, where we catch up to Jason Gregor, host of the Jason Gregor Show on Sportsnet 1440 in Edmonton. Jason, how are you, man? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, no problem, fellas. Doing pretty good.
Yeah, you live in a big mansion out there, right? You don't need any help from anybody.
No jiffy.
I'm pretty lucky where we actually built our house 8 years ago. So, well, I didn't build it. No, but
Awesome. How's the build of the Edmonton Oilers here? We see some faces going out. It's July 2nd. No race for Connor McDavid to sign a new long-term deal. So what are your overall thoughts on the last, little over 24 hours?
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer that July 1st is where more mistakes than good moves are made historically. Like, there's the odd one. Zach Hyman worked out really well for Edmonton, but Edmonton has about 10 other free agent signings that you'd be like, oof, those didn't pan out. And so Edmonton, I think, took a pretty cautious approach here. To me, I look at the Oilers and I look at their regular season team last year, and then I look at their roster for their regular season upcoming, and I don't see it being much different. I actually think their defense is probably better because Jake Wallman will be here to start the year in their top five. And, guys like Evander Kane didn't play all regular season. So, they didn't have him last year. So now basically they have Trent Frederick in the regular season. They'll have Mangiapane, who's probably, I think, going to bring a little bit more offense than can he replace 40-year-old Corey Perry's offense, which is crazy to think that Perry scored that much. But, I look at Edmonton and they'll have some new guys, Matt Savoy, they'll give him an opportunity. Thomas Sek, they'll give him an opportunity. So there's a few question marks, but they're kind of similar to last year. And honestly, guys, did any team in the Western Conference really improve?
Did Vegas improve?
Like,
Not sure LA did. Yeah.
Right? They improved Marner, but they lost Pietrangelo and Haig. Mm-hmm. And so you bring in Lazon and I guess Korsak. So I don't know. Like, honestly, I don't know if any of the top teams, Dallas didn't get way better. Mm-hmm. Colorado didn't get way better. Edmonton didn't get way better. They're kind of the same, right? So I think the regular season in the West is going to be about, who finds their holes and then which GM makes the best moves at the deadline.
So not overly concerned about any of, was it Brown? Who are the guys who all left? Was it four guys? Perry, Brown,
Arvidsson.
best.
Arvidsson.
Perry, Brown, Arvidsson, and Jeff Skinner are gone. So they bring in Matt Savoy. They bring in Mangiapane. I think they bring in Frederick. He played 7 minutes in the regular season last year, right? So to me, he's a new regular season guy. And then Thomas Sek.
Yeah. So full season with a couple of those guys. The Frederick contract is a good commitment to a player that I really like, and I think that there's a lot more to be found. How much of this is yet to be filled in as they move towards trying to get over the hump and win this Stanley Cup? Is there still more to come for them, or are they built good enough now?
No. I think, and I wrote this before free agency. It's hard to get look at Florida. We can argue Florida won the cup because of their trade deadline moves in Jones and Marchand, right? Now, it obviously helps that you can exceed the salary cap in the playoffs. Let's make no bones about that. But it's legal. It's in the rules, but that helped them. I look at Edmonton, and at the trade deadline, I think they're going to look at three things. Are their goaltenders more secure? If not, they're going to get a goalie. A second pair right defenseman and a winger. They'll probably get two of those three depending on what's the biggest need.
How fast do they need to get a goalie here? Is it just to appease Connor McDavid? Can they wait? Last time I checked, their goalies have done a pretty good job helping them in the playoffs win rounds and get to a Stanley Cup final. So how much of a pressing need is it, and how does that compare to what's available right now?
Well, Nick, you bring up a great point, because I think there's a lot of people that forgot that Edmonton really kind of cruised to the first three rounds after, they had two bad games, and then they went 12-2, and they walloped Dallas and Vegas, two really good teams. Like, those series weren't even close, right? Vegas wins on an Edmonton own goal. Otherwise, that might have been a sweep. So, and Stu Skinner 2 years in a row was infinitely better than Jake Ottinger. He's not Bobrovsky, right? So Florida had the better goalie in the final, no question about that. So I think that they will look. I think they're going to make a change to their goalie coach, and I'm not saying that the goalie coach is the reason why, but sometimes a new voice can help. So I think that's going to come for Skinner. And then, they'll see. I don't see a big rush because, which goalies are truly available. Like everybody, I saw the rumors, oh, Jake Allen's going to get $5 million. He signed for 1.8. I know he signed for 5 years, but hell, he could have signed 2 years at 10 mil and made the same amount of money. So I don't know if there's a huge, glaring obvious goalie, but I think it's one they'll look at to see how Stu Skinner does. Stu Skinner, I actually thought he improved in the playoffs and that he didn't let in really soft goals. Like the third goal in game 6, it was a terrible rebound. I don't know what he was thinking, but he didn't let in like weak goals. He just didn't make the big saves. So it's kind of an improvement. And he's a young goalie at 26. There's only 7 goalies in the NHL who are younger than Skinner and played more than 20 games last year. 7. And those guys have a combined 3 playoff games. Skinner has 50, right? Like he's still a young goalie. I know it's frustrating because you know what? He's not as good as Bobrovsky, but they're not built to have their goalies steal them games all the time. And he did steal them some games up until the final.
Yeah, it's a tough pill for fans to swallow, right? Like this one thing that they can't, it seems like they can't get right, but you're right. If he was available, there'd be people falling all over themselves to get their hands on him for the number he makes. So I hear what you're saying there. Let's talk a little bit about Evan Bouchard. Signed himself a 4-year, $10.5 million per season contract. What were your initial impressions versus the expectations for that deal?
Well, I kind of thought he was going to be a $10 million guy. So I had actually heard that, they were asking for more on a long-term deal. So 4 years, Bouchard, like this year, Bouchard's security blanket known as Matthias Ekholm wasn't there. And Bouchard was still really good in the playoffs. Actually, guys, if you go back and look, the game 5 and 6 was more Ekholm's errors than Bouchard's that cost the Oilers on those goals. So I think Evan Bouchard, like he can be a frustrating player at times because in the regular season, maybe he'll go back to a puck a little nonchalantly and people are like, oh my God, and they remember that play. But meanwhile, he'll make, 50 other good plays in a game that kind of go unnoticed. So he's the guy who shoots the puck the hardest, the most frequently, like 90-mile-an-hour shots more than anyone. He wasn't a guy who padded all his stats in the power play. He didn't have a power play goal really, I think, until February. So I think Bouchard, in what the market is today for as many points as he gets, it's what you're going to get. Can he frustrate you at times? Yes. But in the playoffs, guys, no one can argue that Evan Bouchard's playoff game is amongst the elite defenders the last few years. His goals against per 60 is actually better than Cale Makar. So I don't know if I'm that surprised by it. I guess 4 years people don't love, but in 4 years, he's either going to continue to mature and then maybe he moves on. But I'd be surprised if Bouchard doesn't give you pretty good value. He will give you a few games and a few plays that people will highlight and focus on, but I think people who do that are probably missing the vast majority of his game, which is pretty darn good.
Jason, we know the challenges on the salary cap for the Edmonton Oilers still to this day. So long-term success, a Stanley Cup, does it include Bouchard and Darnell Nurse making $20 million between them? Is that even an issue now moving forward?
Oh, I think it's potentially an issue for sure. Like, Darnell Nurse is never going to live up to his contract. He's not going to have the offensive numbers that ever live up to it. So he needs to be more consistent defensively. I thought he was good at times, but he doesn't give you the offense to make up for some of the mistakes. Like, he needs to be better when he comes around the net. If the winger's not open, he's got to be able to read the play better and not just throw a grenade up that leads to an icing call. I know that, icings aren't the end of the world if you don't lose faceoffs, but I look at Florida. They won the Cup this past year. Their top 6 salaries ate up 59.8% of the cap. This season, the Oilers' top 6 guys, with McDavid, still doesn't have a contract extension, but with their top 8, they'll make up around 60%. So it's not much different, but one of those guys is Nurse. He'll have to be a little bit more consistent, I think, in his play because Florida had Verhaeghe, and he contributed very well in their Stanley Cup run. So I think it's on Nurse to be better. And I think ultimately long term, it'll get to a point where either Nurse is going to give them a little bit more consistent play. I thought he was decent this year, but I still think there's more when you're making 9.25. You just need a little bit more.
Jason, I know getting past the LA Kings was not a particularly huge hurdle for the Oilers in recent years, but how did you feel about what they did? A direct competitor, Cody Ceci goes there for 4 times 4.5. Dumoulin gets $4 million. Armia, Perry. What are your thoughts? The Kings spent like $25 million on guys that were a lot of really.
Yeah, it was an interesting day in LA land. I think they went in, God, we got a lot of money to spend, and there wasn't really a lot of guys to spend on, but they decided they were going to spend on him anyway. Like Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin, I'm like, wouldn't you have just signed Gavrikov to $8 million by himself? Like, I don't know if Gavrikov just wanted to leave because he signed for 7 in New York. Are you telling me that the Kings didn't offer him 7? So I'd love to get to the bottom of that decision for Gavrikov. Did he just want to leave? I know lots of Russian players love playing in New York, so maybe that was part of it. Because right now, if you look at the Kings blue line, like one of Ceci and Dumoulin, if not both, are going to be in their third pair. It's a lot of money for a third pairing. So I don't think the Kings necessarily got better by any stretch. They might have got a little bit more regular season consistency, but I'm not sure they're better and built for the playoffs. They're going to have to hope that, guys up front continue to get better, right? That Byfield takes a big jump this year. Fiala continues to do what he does. And Brant Clark, I think, on the back end is the guy they're going to look at to take a jump. Yeah. But I agree with you. They spent a lot of money that I'm kind of like, hey, I love Corey Perry. He just had an unreal year. But he's basically guaranteed $3.5 million.
Yeah.
Right? Like his playoff bonuses are $500,000. But $3.5 million. And I know he scored 19 goals. Now, maybe he'll do it again. Maybe he's just the ageless wonder. But
probably not.
Yeah, it's a risky bet, right? Like it's a pretty risky bet for me.
How much are they going to miss Corey Perry? Like he went from a constant thought of minimum salary, 4th line guy, maybe in and out of the lineup, to being a real important guy.
Well, the thing about Perry, like he scored big goals, guys, but it's funny, like his goals, 4 goals against 5-on-5 in the playoffs weren't very good. So he scored a lot, but then he was on the ice. Not saying he was the only problem when they give up goals, but at the end of the day, it's give or take. And if you score lots, but then you're on the ice for a lot against, well, that's not great. So they'll miss Corey Perry, I think, in the room. He's a calming factor. That Perry knows when to show up for games. That's the one thing he's very good at, right? Like he can bring them into a fight at times. And I think maybe that's why LA got him, is they're like, hey, we need a guy that can calm us down in the playoffs, because you look at LA in games 3 and 4, they kind of self-destructed against Edmonton. They made some pretty bad decisions. And so I think Ken Holland's thinking maybe Corey Perry and Draisaitl and McDavid have both talked about it. Like Corey Perry's an incredibly smart player, and he's incredibly calm and knows when to speak up at the right time and what to say. He doesn't rah-rah all the time. And a lot of times he speaks up with his actions on the ice. And I think they will miss him there more than anywhere else. And but the Oilers, they better have other guys in the room now that have been through back-to-back cup runs that they'll know when's the right time to stand up and speak.
All right, I cannot let you go without asking you about Connor McDavid and what the heck is going on here. Everybody tells me, hey, Leon Draisaitl didn't sign till like the end of August, September. Guess what? I love Leon. He ain't Connor, okay? And the reason why it may have gone to September is because Edmonton may have not wanted to hit that 14 number. This is majorly different for Connor McDavid. This ain't about 14, 15, 16. It's about, hey, Connor, you tell us what you want to make and we'll sign it tomorrow. So what are we about to see here in the next little while or not see?
Well, a few things with Draisaitl. I actually was told that 14 million number was one that they kind of had in March. But they weren't going to sign the Draisaitl deal until Stan Bowman took over in late July, and then they had the offer sheet stuff, so it got delayed. I think in Connor McDavid's case, I don't think he's going to sign to 8 years. And why would he? I have argued for years, guys. Like the NHL took a step towards my argument. I always thought 5 years max is what that should be. So they reduced it by 1. And I bet you on the next CBA it'll be 6 and 5, and that'll be fine. So I think McDavid for 2 reasons. You go 3 or 4 years because you can maximize it as the highest paid guy in the league. Look at the cap's going to be, guys, in 3 years. $118 million probably after 113. Like, it's nuts. So why would you sign long-term as an elite player in the league? I would never do that. And then number 2, it gives him a chance to see, okay, where are we at? Like, he could, if he's going to play out this year and then leave, where's he going to go that gives him a better chance to win than Edmonton? Colorado? That's it, right? Like maybe McKinnon and McCarr. There's no other team that has a Draisaitl, right? So where else will we go to think, hey, I got a better chance? He's going to take his time. I think this contract will be done. The term, everybody's going to get up in arms out, but I think shorter term's better for elite players. I know that some fans don't like to hear that, but if I'm an elite player and I'm looking at my career, I'm going to go short term all the time because I can maximize my earnings, still be competitive, and force my team to remain competitive.
Jason, great stuff as always, man. Really appreciated not just today, but your efforts all season for our show.
Hey, boys, love coming on, man. Anytime. Have a good offseason.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it, and have a good one yourself.
Jason Gregor. Jason Gregor show in Edmonton, 1440.
So he'll
This is
sign a
good stuff.
4-year contract?
Yeah, so really, at the end of the day, he's just wants to protect his status as being the best player in the world, so you don't lock into 8. So it's really just about the money for him moving forward here, or is there? Is there a thought? Is there a? Do you believe it, Jason, in terms of like, there's nowhere for him to go?
Well, I mean, there's different places for him to go that have comparable opportunities. I think Edmonton is in a group of 7, 8 teams that if he goes to those teams, they're instantly the favorite, right?
What are you giggling at over there?
Nothing.
But your team hasn't won a cup since '67.
I know.
So
I'm aware of
still,
that.
so will he be the difference maker in a year from now?
Maybe the greatest hockey player to ever touch ice could make a difference.
Toronto's the last place that guy would ever go.
I think that's wrong. I think that's not true.
I think it's either
The last
super true or
place-
super wrong.
I think he'd rather go here than, like Seattle, Columbus.
Yeah, I don't believe it's the last place, but I do think that he's one of 2 ways on Toronto. He would either really find it appealing or really not find it appealing. I bet you really not find it appealing.
He just there's no way you could totally hedge anything, but he's got to get his cup. He's 0 for 2 right now in a final.
No better chance in Toronto. I think Edmonton is a much better chance.
I believe he's going to stay, and I do believe it'll be a shorter term deal.
3 times
but
16, 17?
He's 28 now.
Yep.
So if he signs a 4-year deal and he doesn't win a Stanley Cup, now he's looking for a new team at 32.
Then he's Kevin Durant. He starts flipping around all the different teams looking for a win.
I'd hate to see
Me
that.
too, but he needs one, bud. That's all that matters to him. I actually really believe that he's not hungry for money. Like the last contract he signed, what'd he take? He took less. The PA was pissed off at him because he didn't take as much as he should have.
Remember when was it Timo Solani and Paul Correa played for like $1 million each in Colorado that 1 year?
And they didn't win.
No, they weren't close.
They didn't even come
If I
close.
recall.
Him and Leon been training now for about a week in
Is that true?
with Gary Roberts.
It's too much.
He's in town.
It's too much.
No,
Yeah,
it's
I saw a picture of him and Matthews get sent to me, but I don't know if that was from this summer or last summer. But they're having dinner at some point.
Yeah.
Oh no, this guy's already.
They do have a
locked
relationship,
in.
those two.
Mhm.
So that's nice.
Already locked in.
Very admirable, man. They're committed.
For sure. I think he probably gave himself 2 weeks off, week off, and then
I
get
always
back
give
in the
myself
ice.
like 3 weeks or something.
Yeah.
I'm not them, and I was done way earlier in the
Yeah.
season, so it was easy for me. But
All right.
that's
I want to
normal
touch on
length.
this before we go here. Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh yeah, right.
The owner of the Carolina Hurricanes, Tom Dundon, has a bit of a reputation for being a tough negotiator and
Bit of a cheapo.
little alligator arms. They don't quite reach the pockets.
Bit of a cheapo is what you're saying.
And all of a sudden, boom! Kendra Miller, $60 million, no problem. $60 million.
For Stankoven too, a bunch of money.
Like,
Stankoven got $48 million.
so Kendra jumps into Carolina now and becomes the highest paid defenseman. And Slavin's their best guy.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure he started his new contract. And it's probably got to be about $2 million less than Miller.
Oh, Slavin?
Slavin.
No, Slavin makes like 6.4. What's he make here? I'll tell you right now. He makes 6.4. So he makes 1.1 less.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But clearly, Keandre Miller does not come in and become Carolina's best defenseman.
No, but it's like it's one of those things where this is what Carolina is trying to do, is to try to sign contracts where you're getting value on guys, and that's
Good on Tom Dundon. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a good sign moving forward that he's now spending money and he needs to win a Stanley Cup too.
Yeah. And like,
Slavin contract's best in the league. I just
It's-
looked at it right now.
it's
It's
the-
absurd.
Yeah.
Is it started?
Yeah, he makes 6.4 until
how many more years?
2032.
yeah.
Is that 8 years? Count for me.
One,
Yeah,
two,
he signed,
three,
he signed an 8-year contract worth 51.17.
And it kicks in-
And he signed it last July 1st.
Okay, so it kicks in now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
Why did he
so
sign
good.
that?
Because nobody, it takes guts
D
to bet
first.
on yourself.
Well,
That's why.
and defense first D-men have a tougher time getting to big numbers.
You're
Because
right.
what do you point to?
You're right.
You know, it's
Did you see our list of top 25 hockey players? Did you guys get that?
No.
top 25.
Sportsnet's.
Just generally.
Yeah, somebody just sent it to me. Do you remember voting for it?
Yeah.
I think I remember voting for it
I
too.
did, yeah.
But I don't. We'll find it. We'll get it in our show tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
well, we need something to talk
there,
about.
there's some guys I'm shaking my head.
Yeah,
add
Austin
on the
Matthews.
list.
What's he doing in there?
No, he's in there.
I'm joking. That's the joke.
Stankoven in there?
No.
Pizzetta?
No. So
What's
something
that
to look
top
forward
20,
to
25
tomorrow.
NHL players.
Yeah. You know, Carolina is I am curious to see how it shakes out. They still have these first round picks. Are they going to try to do the Ehlers thing in the next 48 hours? And will they do more? They need
How good is
more.
Ehlers?
Not that good.
What do you have? 60 points?
He has a season where one season where he played 18 minutes a game and he had like 70 points. It was like a career high for him.
Someone's going to pay him $8 or $9 million.
I mean, in this cap era, it's not that devastating. Like even this Keandre Miller deal, that's Morgan Riley money, you know, and by the time that cap goes up, you look at how some of these guys that skate well, are big, his D takes a while to come around. Look at Seth Jones. All of a sudden it's like, God, how good was he en route to winning a cup?
I do like the raw tools with Miller.
Yeah.
Rangy, offensive upside, great
He
skater, long.
Took a step backwards
time.
last year.
No
Sure.
question. No question.
But that's
Different
why you get
system.
him cheap.
Everything I hear, he's got to get his head on straight.
Is that
It's
right?
fair.
Yeah.
I'm sure I wouldn't.
Fresh start in a much smaller
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. $60 million. Will that help you keep it on straight or
Or the
unstraighten it?
opposite. Yeah.
I don't know.
Me or him?
Yeah, me. Uh-oh.
Well, we'll see. We're still waiting on a few deals, but there's not really any massive names left out there, guys.
Tomorrow we'll break down the Jack Roslovic contract and
Tell you what we think of Travis Boyd. I mean, by the way, you know,
Letary?
nice
What's the guy's
American
name that
depth
the-
guy can help.
Vinny
Letary.
Letary, the Leafs signed today.
Vinny Letary.
Benoit
From
Olivier
Minnesota.
Groulx.
Yeah.
Dakota
Right.
Murmis is back.
Good stuff.
How about the Kings? Oh my God.
I would say the Kings took the largest step back.
They
They had a lot of money to
They're-
spend and
they-
spent it on
Oopsies.
Doll.
have room for Bo Byram. He's out there.
Byram's
He's got to get traded. We had Elliott on yesterday, talking about they got to move him or else they're going to get locked in and take him right to unrestricted free agency. Okay, our thanks to Brad Treliving, manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs, Dan Murphy, Hockey Night in Canada, Canucks, and Jason Gregor covering the Edmonton Oilers. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. You get a chance, give us a rating and review. We'd love to hear from you. We're back tomorrow on The Real Kyper and Bourne Show.